Good morning, I'm Frank Powers, and this is Open for Business, the program where I network with business owners, the bosses in charge of the startups, storefronts, and services in the Southwest. Our entrepreneurs are educating you on how they impact our community, and they're here to give you insight into their ideas. Let's add some new contacts today. So I was happy to receive an email from Deanne in sales stating that Ed Ackerley of Ackerley Advertising is set for today. He's a radio host Fridays on the Morning Voice over at KVOI, as well as a professor at the U of A. He's going to cover the economy and tips for business to market your business. And I'm excited to learn a lesson or two without paying any more tuition. And you should be too, because today I'm fortunate to speak with Ed Ackerley of Ackerley Advertising, a professor. We're open for business. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate being here.
I'm excited to talk because we were just talking a little bit off air. I just love local business. I showed you a little bit of what I do, what I'm trying to do with growth and trying to expand. Because even as a small business owner, I'm as small as a business owner gets. It's just me, right? And I'm at the point now where I am looking to maybe hire an employee, where we're at that level of like expanding business. So it's an interesting leap I'm about to take when it comes to businesses. But the best thing about this show is I've talked to businesses of all sizes, guys my size, and people as big as the Tucson airport, a $10 billion organization. So I'm really eager to learn about advertising from you and to talk a little bit about what you do talk about weekly on your radio show. Why don't you begin by giving me a little 101 of what Ackerley Advertising is all about?
Well, my father was in the radio business for the first 25 years of his career. He started at KHJ in Hollywood. He was in KSL in Salt Lake City. And they came to Tucson to manage a couple of stations. And so when they were 10 years into that, my mom and dad started Ackerley Advertising. And they decided that they would go out on their own and be entrepreneurs and stop working for other people and put their name on the front side of the check like you're doing. And so they started Ackerley Advertising in 1968.
Wow.
And we've been in business ever since. And my folks have passed, but my brother Bill Ackerley and I are the two principals now, and what we call a custom advertising agency. It's a smaller leadership management, marketing, government relations, special events, those types of things. And we've been fairly successful. We're still in business after almost 60 years, so it's been quite a ride.
That's incredible. When you were growing up, were you interested in this as just what it was going to be? Did you have other goals and then you fell back onto marketing and advertising, or was it just something that was always in your family, so it was kind of always in your blood?
Well, I was 10 years old when they started the agency, and all of my brothers and sisters, there are 7 of us, they all worked at the agency for some period of time during high school. I started in high school, and then I just never left. I went down to the U of A and got a degree in radio and television, and so did my brother. And so we're the 2 youngest, and we just kind of stayed with it. And it wasn't necessarily my intent to stay in the advertising agency business all of my life, but it served me well. I enjoy the business, and it's been a great ride.
That's awesome. Because one of my favorite things about it is I used to volunteer for radio and do this because that's how much I like it. And I love the community. I love people. A rare thing these days, it seems. But I really do. And I love to learn about folks in town. And it's a thing I say, learn about the faces behind the places and shine a spotlight on people.
Right.
Because that is why we shop, where we go, eat where we eat, is there's trust. And that's a big part of marketing and everything that we're all about when it comes to building relationships for others and helping others build their relationships with the community. How have you found, as we've gone forward, things have changed quite a bit. AI has become just the buzzword like VR used to be. How do you feel about that concept in general?
Well, I guess I'm a little older, so I have more of that human element in me, instilled in me when I was a young man. And the first 40 years of me being in the business was all about the human connection. And so, I teach at the University of Arizona, and I'm all in. I have a phone on me now. I live and die by my MacBook, and I'm connected as anybody else in the world. But it has its limitations. It's no different than handing somebody a hammer and a screwdriver and a wrench and saying, "Go build me a building." They're just tools, and the tools that we have are phenomenal, electronically, digitally, and all the things that we do with our footprint in that space. But that alone doesn't make a good logo. That alone doesn't make a good advertising campaign. It's the human element that makes it powerful and creative. And so I'm a big believer in the best way to make contact with a prospect is to go see him and talk to him, have a cup of coffee. The best way to design a campaign is to talk to the owners and say, what are you really trying to do here? And what can we do for you? and then craft a campaign after you have that connection. And it's all about trust, building trust and credibility and the things that you need to do in a normal relationship. And relationship is key. People ask me what I do for a living. I could say that I own an agency. I could say that I do lots of different things. I say I'm a relationship broker. What I do is match people with people who need help in a variety of different places, and we put them together, and it seems to work pretty nicely.
Matchmaking actually is a big part of all of this, and it's networking. And that's
Correct.
one of the things that I do love to talk about on the show. But we do talk about lots of things and how you are doing all these different things. So I do have a question I typically ask, and yours will be interesting because I don't think you have a typical day. But what does a typical day for you look like?
Well, because I teach at the University of Arizona, I have the best of both worlds. About 50 years ago, I got to be in an agency where I can do anything I want to do whenever I want to for whatever time. I can go play golf. I can take a trip to San Diego. I can do whatever I want to do. My day is pretty much my own. And then I got started teaching at the University of Arizona, and I know a year in advance where I'm going to be at a specific time, at a specific place with a group of students. And so I have a dichotomy in my life where I have total freedom to do whatever I want to do, but yet I'm tied down to being at specific classrooms at specific times. So it's been kind of an interesting, unique struggle over the years to have both of those, total freedom and then total security of having a job at the University of Arizona on top of everything. But my typical day is never the same. I guess you would even say that in the classroom, my day is never the same. It's always, I try to be creative, I try to be fun and exciting and do things that perhaps other professors don't do and perhaps other business owners don't do. I look at things from a very creative perspective, and it's all about engagement. It's about getting the best out of people you can get out of them and giving them the opportunities, removing obstacles from their life so that they can be successful.
Even just here's some good advice if you are a small business owner. Remember, you want your customer to be unpacking as few boxes as possible.
Exactly.
Right? Make sure you price all your things on your table. Oh, they'll just ask. No, they won't. 1 out of 10 will ask because no one likes being uncomfortable. So I always try to give that advice, and it's good advice for any of these kids, that you want to take away all those barriers. You want to make a smooth, clear path for people.
It's not bad to have a counter and a cash register, but it's probably bad to be behind that counter. You need to move out into the space, whether that be in a physical retail location or even if it's in an office. When people come in and want to engage, they want to engage. They don't want to have a barrier between you and them. They want to see you face to face. They want to shake your hand. They want to sit down and talk to you. You go to some of these banks now, and there's bulletproof glass, and it's like you're the enemy, and you stay out there. We're in here, and you can't come in. And I realize safety is an issue with lots of different places, but that's most people. 99.999% of people are not going to blow up the place. And so get out from behind your bulletproof glass, get out from behind your desk, get out from behind your counter, and go engage with your potential customer. It's the best way to do it.
It's true. And even that, it's a kind of an extreme example, but we have to have that here at the media company.
Yeah.
Some people think the radio's talking to them and they wear their tinfoil hats.
Yeah.
But
one time I brought Ronald McDonald to a TV station, and Ronald McDonald in a Ronald McDonald outfit. They don't even have Ronald McDonald anymore, really, but I took him to a local TV station. We knocked on the door. They wouldn't let us in because of that. Safety issue. They wouldn't let the clown in. Could be somebody masquerading as Ronald McDonald. You've got to be kidding me. That's the world we live in.
Yeah, and I'd find that Tucson is not as worried about that sort of thing. That's what I feel is successful, is it is our community. People do often ask, like, how does this work? How does this happen? How did you guys do this? One example being the merger of Sun Corridor and the Chamber, Tucson Metro Chamber.
Correct.
People nationwide are asking them, because I produced their radio show, how did they do this? How did they manage this? What's the model? Can we follow it? Good luck, New Jersey. Yeah. You have to be friendly. You have to be the way that we are, where we are kind of very well connected because we're a small, big city, right? We've got that ebb and flow of snowbirds and college students, but we are also very connected. I don't know if some of that is fading as we're getting into our 2020s, but the connection is here.
I wish the city of Tucson and Pima County would get together and do a little bit of that collaboration as opposed to duplicating police forces and parks and rec and libraries and all the things that we have, duplicate resources. And that's why Sun Corridor and Tucson Metro Chamber, that was a good thing. They were kind of duplicating their efforts. It's nice to bring that together under one umbrella and have Joe running it and Mike being there as as the chief guy and get those two things together and work together to solve problems for Tucson and not create problems.
Mm-hmm. As a guy that interviews nothing but nonprofits over on Lifestyle Tucson, that's the show that precedes this one, that is some of the problem. We have the most nonprofits per capita. And sometimes I tell these nonprofits, because they will be so small that they don't even have their website up yet,
right,
where they're collecting this much pet food and they can't keep up. And I'm like, you're the dozenth organization that's collecting pet food. Like, why don't you merge?
Right.
They all think that they need to start it. And I know when you have a great idea, it's fun to come up with that logo and it's fun to get those hats. But you should look to volunteer first for an organization that is already doing what needs to be done. Just go help them, volunteer. You don't need to be in charge of it. It's a lot of hard work.
I call that when I'm consulting with people who have businesses or have events, and they want to have an event. We have 9 million events in Tucson, all rubber chicken dinners and all the things we have at all the different. I tell them, hitch your wagon with your company, your event, your nonprofit. Hitch it to something else that's already created and both of you benefit from that, coming together as two, becoming one, and having a much bigger impact on the community than one little event over here and another one over there and another one over there. Pull together and do it together as a group, and it tends to work out a lot better.
I agree. And teamwork makes the dream work. Many hands make light work. That's the idea. And a rising tide lifts all ships. And that's one of the things that Tucson has going for it. So really it is about networking, getting together, and figuring out who you can partner with to make your organization or your event bigger and better, because that's the idea. So now let's talk about radio, because that's a day that you have. So every Friday, you're on KVOI, and you're talking about success stories and University of Arizona Wonder. Whereas every day, you have a different guest on The Voice from 7 to 9 a.m. It's over at KVOI, 1030 AM The Voice in Tucson. And it's a really good thing. You got Arizona Rainmakers with Lydia on Monday, Engagement with Ted Maxwell on Tuesday. Grant Kruger is talking about restaurants, politics, and food on Wednesday. And then my man Tim Moulton is talking about Southern Arizona attractions. He was a guest of mine on Lifestyle Tucson, and we had a great conversation. He's a great, great guy. So on Friday, you're talking about success stories. Tell me a bit about what it is for you to be a radio show host, the prep that goes into it, and what you like to discuss weekly.
My father, when he started the agency, there was separation of church and state, and the agencies didn't go into the media business, and the media didn't go into the agency business, and there was a good respect there. And that all changed about 10 years ago, where, for instance, the local newspaper is more now a marketing agency than it really is a publishing house for a newspaper. That's just the modern times that we're in. The radio show came about not because I wanted to be on the radio, but because I ran for mayor twice in the last 2 cycles. And this would happen to me almost every time I would go somewhere. I'd walk into the room, they would announce me as a candidate for mayor, and a couple hundred people would be there. Inevitably, someone would pin me against the wall, and they would tell me all the horrible things that are going on in Tucson: roads, fentanyl, dirty parks, not enough police, their opinion on the city council and the mayor and so forth, and just go after where they live. So I'd let them go on for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'd look at them and say, why are you still here? What about Tucson makes you stay? Why don't you just move somewhere else? And then they would gush about their business, about the reason they're here, the weather. They'd give you 1,000 reasons of why Tucson's a great place to have a business and a family and to raise little guys. And so the radio show is kind of an outgrowth of that. We have enough radio stations and podcasts and other things where people are talking about the horrible things going on in our country and our state and our city and county and so forth. The Morning Voice came along as a way to maybe mitigate some of that and talk about the good things going on. So my show on Friday, we're in charge of all 5 of the different day parts, and I got all the hosts to do this for us. But the idea behind it was to, in running for mayor, there's a lot of good things going on in Tucson. And a good example would be is that people drive by Speedway in Campbell, and they look over and they see those red brick buildings and the beautiful campus. And I would bet you that about 90% of the people that drive by have no idea what's going on at the U of A. They know there's football, there's basketball, there's sports, there's some arts and entertainment type things, and there's some research going on, but they probably couldn't tell you too much about the details. And so the idea was to bring that in and discover the wonder of what's happening at the U of A and and talking about the positive things going on. And the same thing with the business success stories. Let's get businesses in there who would, in a normal situation, not in a million years, get a chance to be on radio unless they came on your show. Give them the opportunity to talk about their business and why they're successful.
That's important. Again, that's helping. That's the networking. That is what makes this place great, is having a guy like you that believes in that, that believes in giving people this opportunity. And I'm fascinated because I did not know you ran for mayor. What was that experience like? Because I'm fascinated by that. I truly am.
Yeah, well, you know, I lived in Tucson all my life, and we had the little rodeo parade when I was a kid, and they still have it, and we would go sit on the street, and we'd watch the wagons go by, and we'd see the horses, and it would be great, and we'd wear our little cowboy outfits, and I'm kind of a cowboy at heart, I guess, because of some of that exposure I had when I was little. And, I kind of felt like my government was doing stuff, and there were people running it, and I was just sitting on the curb watching all of this stuff happen in front of my eyes. And so when Jonathan Rothschild, our previous mayor, called me and told me he wasn't going to run again, the next morning he had announced that he wasn't running. I just inside of me said, I could do this. I could run for mayor. I could be a good mayor. So I talked to my wife, and one of my clients walked into my office, ironically, that next morning and said, did you hear that Jonathan's not running for mayor? And I said, yeah, he told me yesterday. And she looked at me and said, why don't you run? And I said, I was thinking about doing it. And so we got together and I ran. And I threw my hat in the ring, and nothing against our current mayor or the current city council or the county or the state. God bless those people for jumping in and doing what they do to lead our community. I just felt it was I have a lot of leadership experience. I have a lot of small business experience. I just felt the positivity that I could bring to the office would be good. I did really well in 2019 because that would have been the current mayor's first running for mayor, and so I gave her a run for her money. She's now she won the second time around pretty handily. I predict she's going to be mayor for the next couple of cycles. She's really good at getting the vote out, and she's a wonderful person. All the council people are wonderful people. I sometimes disagree with some of their policies, but we just need good leadership to run our city, and it was an honor and a privilege to run, and it really brought into focus the networking and the human element that we have in our community. It makes us very special. No,
that is really special. Let me tell you something fun and funny. So I get to be the MC for the Tucson Rodeo Parade now.
Very cool.
The last few years. It's been an honor. It was the 100th year just this past year. So here, real quick, when the mayor was going by in that rodeo parade, I just came up with the funny stuff. I love all the mayors. And I had a thought, and I go, and I don't mean the horses. And everybody laughed. I thought of that joke right on the spot.
That's excellent.
So stupid, but I love it. It's an honor to be a part of that organization and do that because it is history.
Rich part of our history in Tucson, yeah.
And that is the best part of some of this place is we do have a very unique and rich history in southern Arizona, and it is a lot of that connectivity and that networking. But one of my favorite things, like as you're saying, you're sitting there kind of watching the whole thing go by, and I have felt that exact type of feeling when it comes to some of the local politics, and that's why I like to champion getting involved with local politics. Everyone really likes to show up every 4 years and start, rah, rah, rah. How about get involved with what's actually happening in your neighborhood and on your street, and then in your community, and then in your city, and then in your state? There's a lot of levels to this that people could get involved with and not just be rabble-rousers once every 4 years.
Right.
So I always think that that's a big part of it, but you know what that's called? Homework. Yeah. That's a little bit of effort.
We do the same thing with small business. We tell them that, you don't need the mayor and the city council. You don't have a zoning issue now. You don't have a financing issue. You don't have a crime issue right this second. But if you do, when you do have that crime issue and you do have that zoning issue and you have something and you don't know who the people are that lead in our city and you haven't engaged with them in any way, then you go down there and complain about something, they're much less apt to respond to you in a positive way if all you're doing is bitching and moaning and complaining and have a horrible attitude about everything. And so we encourage our clients to get involved in government relations and show up to council meetings and go to events and go to ribbon cuttings and shake hands and be personable. And you don't have to agree with everything they're doing, but you certainly should support the fact, hey, we need a mayor, we need city council people, we need a police chief, we need a fire chief, we need all the municipal services. Support the people that are doing the work, and if you think that somebody else could do a better job, support them and try to get them in. but don't burn any bridges and make sure that you're part of the solution and don't be the problem.
That is some of the best advice I've heard on this show. Yeah, don't burn any bridges. It's Tucson, folks.
Right.
The reason the Sun Corridor and the Tucson Metro Chamber were able to merge, that was Michael's boss, was Joe.
Correct.
And he goes, when they were merged, like, no, you should do this again. I've worked for you before. I would love to do it again. I'm happy to take a step back. I'm willing to do this because I trust you because we have built this experience. And that's the networking of this place.
Right.
It's really important. That advice you were just giving, very, very good advice that everyone should really adhere to.
You know, Felipe at Visit Tucson, they have a statistic. It's about 7 million people a year come to the city of Tucson to experience the weather and the hospitality and the history and the food and all the wonderful things we have going on in the city of Tucson. 7 million people a year come here. And we live here, and we sometimes overlook why 7 million people would show up at our doorstep and want to be part of our city. And we should celebrate. Yeah, we got a lot of problems, but we should also celebrate the good things happening in the city of Tucson and take pride in it.
Yeah, and who doesn't have a lot of problems? That's
Right.
the thing about it. But we're able to communicate.
Right.
We're able to work together. And dare I say, some of us are still able to reach across the aisle, which barely exists nationally anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it.
That's one of our biggest problems in politics is that if you reach across the aisle and try to be collaborative with somebody, you then get ostracized by your own party and they say you're a traitor. And that just, our founding forefathers, they didn't want us to have vitriol in the city council chambers or in the state legislature or even in the Congress. They wanted people to listen to the population, come and represent them and solve problems and just fix something and be part of the solution. Don't be the problem.
Yeah. There's a bit of maturity that we've lost as time has gone on, I feel.
I agree.
But that said, let's talk about just some advice that I want you to give to these folks that are looking to maybe open a small business or expand what they're doing, like I'm trying to grow a little bit. What books have you read that you find are just need to read books? Because I do love asking everyone about this because that's some of the best advice you can get is from books.
The best primer on advertising itself probably ever written was by David Ogilvy called Ogilvy on Advertising. It was written 50 years ago. It's kind of like the Bible in the sense that, the basic tenets that he puts forth in that are still valid in 2025, 2027, 2030, 2050, as they would have been when he wrote them. It's just the basics of advertising. I would think if there was one book, I'm a big champion of John Gordon, who is, he's not so much he's a business consultant in the sense that he gives inspirational talks. I think that all of us need to read The Energy Bus. It is he wrote that 20 years ago, and we have him down at the University of Arizona now, and I discovered him about 3 or 4 years ago. He's written 32 books. They can be read in at less than a day, probably. They're not long, but they do have powerful message. But The Energy Bus is about if you're going to open a small business, you need to have people helping you that are with you and will support you and move you along. And you got to get rid of the people, kick the people off your bus that are telling, no, you can't do it. You're undersized. You're undercapitalized. You don't have a good enough structure behind you. You don't have enough financing. Those people, you got to listen to them, but then kick them off your bus and surround yourself with people who have positivity, who are going to help you achieve your dreams and goals. And we don't all get elected mayor, but we still can go through the process, and you should do that process in a positive way.
PMA is one of my tenets, positive mental attitude. Like that is a big thing that even changed my life. Right. You don't want to be default negative.
How about talking about you have the wherewithal and the ability and the chance to go see a movie, and that's a pretty positive thing. There's people all over the world that can't even go see a movie because they can't afford it or they don't even have one in their town.
Right.
And yet we're complaining about some storyline or some actor or something. Yep. It's the positive attitude that makes for success.
It's a first world problem for sure. And you got to think about the first world problems that you have in your life. Want to hear the funniest one I ever said once in my life? I said one day, I woke up and my neck was kind of, so I'm like, I just have too many pillows. What a complaint, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what a problem to have.
Exactly.
And I just laughed at myself.
Exactly.
I laughed at myself because there are so many instances in our life when I think we just have too many pillows.
Right.
And you got to toughen up and learn that the biggest crime that some of the young folks have these days, it seems, is, and maybe everybody, is the on-demand stuff that we're all gotten addicted to, but then being made to feel uncomfortable is looked at almost as a crime now.
Right.
And it's like life is uncomfortable. Yeah. You get on a bus and there's a stranger there. You're supposed to be able to engage in small talk so that it's not uncomfortable anymore.
Right.
And we've lost some of that human connection because people do just have their guards up. They're a little afraid.
You can go down to campus, you can go downtown, you can go into the malls and everything, and people have their earbuds in and they've got their phone, they're staring at their phone, and they're just in their own isolated little world, and they're missing the opportunity to engage with the person sitting next to them on the airplane.
I'm that guy. I'm going to talk to you on a plane, and I have made friends, especially again when you're traveling to Tucson or coming from it. Like, I will make friends at the airport. That then we exchange business cards, and then we become friendly. And then one of them ended up on the show once because that's how it works. That's networking. Be friendly.
I think I'm kind of an introvert and people laugh at me when I say that, but I am kind of an introvert. But, running for mayor forced me out of my comfort zone and forced me to go talk to people that I would never have talked to in a million years before that. And so now I kind of have a natural bent to just walk right up to people and ask them what what people want to do? People want to tell you their story.
Yep.
And if you give them the opportunity to tell their story, then you make a good connection.
Yep, and that's true. I learned that lesson canvassing for someone for the first time. Terrifying experience.
Yes.
Until you do it. And within 30 minutes, I got basically the 5 same interactions you'll get, whether it's like, hi, how are you? No, thanks. Hey, get away. Hey, slam the door. Or would you like to come in for lemonade? Like, that's about it. It's no one's really all that intense. They just don't want to be bothered by a solicitor. But getting past that uncomfortableness of just walking around a neighborhood and canvassing for someone was a good lesson for me to be even more less afraid of strangers.
And even if they want you to go away, they want you to go away for a reason, and they have a story behind that. If you can get them to tell you why, then they'll deliver their story for you.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I do ask one last question as we are running out of time. There's a broad answer, but define success.
Yeah, for me personally, it's in my own personal life, I operate off of faith, family, and then my company and the things that I do. So I use faith and family as the guideposts for my life. And I always look at things from the standpoint of not is this beneficial for me? I want it to be beneficial for me. But I look at it from the standpoint of, is this benefit society? Does it benefit, most importantly, my family? If I make this decision to do this, how is this going to adversely affect them? So success for me is when I've made the right decision to fulfill that inner compass of mine, that I'm doing the good thing for the right reason, and I'm doing it to help my family. And I think that's what my parents instilled in me, many years ago, and that's what we still try to operate today.
That's excellent. That's a good value to have. Hey, good advice. Take an oath. So that's a great belief that you have there, and it's always going to steer you in the right path, I'm sure, because what's better than that? It certainly is the fuel that gives you probably the energy you need to continue on doing what you do and doing what you do for us here in Tucson, which I appreciate.
Thank you.
Great stuff, great radio show. I'll recap all these things for you in a moment, because today we networked with Ed Ackerley of Ackerley Advertising. Creativity, clarity, and quality. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Frank.
Remember, Ackerley Advertising is open for business. What a great conversation with Ed Ackerley of Ackerley Advertising. You can go find them at ackerleyadvertising.com. It's ACKERLEY advertising.com. Or give them a call over at 520-850-7058. Those books that Ed recommended were Ogilvy on advertising, as well as John Gordon's The Energy Bus. So make sure you check those out. A lot of good advice from Ed. Got a guy running for mayor. I feel like through this conversation, you can really get a feel for this man and the quality of work that he would bring you, but also the quality of conversation that you'd have with him, because it really was nice to have a good conversation with him. Because again, I know I'm a lot and I talk fast and all that stuff. But by the end of it, Ed's energy really picked up too. And it was really great to get, into it about all the stuff that we're talking about when it comes to business here in Tucson and in general. I mean, maybe we're just like-minded, but the idea of, getting out from behind the counter, going and meeting your client in person, trying to, again, network over a cup of coffee. It's just the real advice that I believe in too, and keeping it real. That's exactly right. Just real people in the community at real places. So that is something that I think that Ed really knows something about for sure, because that's what it takes to run for mayor or to be marketing a business. So I want to thank our new friend, Ed Ackerley, for joining me today. You've been listening to Open for Business. If you're a business owner that would like to be on the show, email openforbusinessradioshow@gmail.com. For more information about this program or to listen to something you may have missed, Go to the Sunday Mornings page on KLPX.com, KFMA.com, MixFM.com, CrankTheHankTucson.com, or ESPN-Tucson.com. You can also subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever business podcasts are staying positive. Follow on Facebook and Instagram at Open for Business with Frank Powers, because I'm your BFF, your best Frank forever, and Toot Toot Tucson. Powers out.